Good evening, Oilari community. It's nice to see you. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Avichai Berkovitz. I just came back from Shlichut in Sydney with my wife, Tiferet, and our son, Tuv. And I was Rosh Kollel there for Torah in Sydney, Australia. And we got back to Israel about a month and a half ago. We were in Bidud, which was tough. Now everyone's going to Bidud, so I guess we'll all feel what it's like. And I joined the Kollel, the Kollel. I'm writing a commentary or a biur on the Rif, and I came to learn with Rav Avichai, and it's a huge zchut to learn with Rav Avichai and be part of this community. So thank you very much. I know many people, or I've heard of many people, that I guess they're called BTs. That's I guess the nickname, Balei Tshuva, and there's different kinds of Balei Tshuva in the world, but there's like a specific type of people that lived a very secular life, very chiloni life, and then they decide at some point, for whatever reasons, to become from. And I don't know if you know this type, but a lot of them kind of disregard everything about their old life, and mizalzelim. You know, they disrespect a lot of what they used to be, and they change their life completely. And if you talk to them about anything from their past, they're like, don't talk to me about that. They don't listen to non-Jewish music anymore. They don't talk about people from the past. They don't mention any movie they've ever seen. It's mamish like the dark side, and I can understand that, but I always have that feeling like, that was nothing. That was nothing. Everything you did till now was nothing. I want to speak today about a different kind of tshuva, and I'm going to do it through using the example of honey. So you might know, or you might have heard, in the Gemara, there's a discussion about different kinds of tshuva, and there's a saying, there's a machloket between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan about tshuva me'ahava and tshuva me'ira. Someone does a tshuva out of ira, someone does tshuva out of fear of punishment or fear of Hashem. And there's another level of tshuva, and that's when someone does tshuva out of love of Hashem. And the Gemara there says that if someone does tshuva me'ira, tshuva out of fear, zdonot na'asot kishgagot, his sins, his zdonot, the sins he did purposely, turn into shgagot. They turn into mistakes. What does that mean? It means, I guess, in Shamayim, Hashem looks down and sees everything you did in the past as just one big mistake, and therefore you don't get punished for it. It was a mistake. But if someone does tshuva me'ahava, Gemara says, as donot na'asot lo kizchuyot, the sins become a zchut, a mitzvah. I don't really understand how that works. Like, let's say a person ate pork, I don't know, and then he does tshuva me'ahava. So now what? That pork suddenly turns into a matzah, and it's a mitzvah on Pesach. Like, I don't really know. I didn't really understand how it works, but then I want to speak about that for a bit. So we all know that we eat honey on Rosh Hashana, but if you look at the sources, you'll see that it's hard to find a real, I guess, source for eating honey. The Gemara in Kritut Dvar does speak about other simanim. It's brought down in Shulchan Aruch, a pomegranate, a rimon, silka, a lot of different vegetables and fruits that we have for simanim. But honey isn't mentioned there. And a lot of people were wondering, where does this honey come from? One of the shutim that was written in the last 100 years, it was also asked this question, Shut Mishneh Halachot. Shut Mishneh Halachot was written by Rav Menashe Klein, who was a Rav in America. He then made India, but I think 2009 he came to Israel. He died a few years ago. He was a huge Talmid Chacham, and he wrote thousands, not thousands, but many books, thousands of tshuvot. And his shut is called Mishneh Halachot. And he's asked in Mishneh Halachot by someone, why do we eat honey on Rosh Hashanah? Salt, for example, there's a source for having salt on the table the whole time. The Arizal speaks about the importance of salt. You know that lechem and melach is the same otiyot, and bichlal in Kabbalah, melach represents the din, and lechem represents the chesed, and by putting the lechem in the melach, there's a lot of important things that happen there. So much so that Arizot says that although you have bread with honey, you should still make sure to have salt. Anyways, like salt is very important. But where does honey come from? That's the question that the Mishnah of Menashe Khan was asked. And he answers something very beautiful. So I'm going to go on a bit of a, I guess we're going to go a bit of a side discussion, and then we'll come back to our discussion. So there's a sugya in Masechet Avodah Zarah which discusses what happens when different animals, different parts of animals, fall into a dish, I guess. And Tosfot there in Avodah Zarah asks, how come we're allowed to eat honey? We know that in a lot of honeys, till this day by the way, sometimes the bees fall into the honey, and a lot of times the legs of the bees fall into the honey, and the bee is a sheretz. No, you're not allowed to eat a bee, you're not allowed to eat like, I don't know, like a bug, like a snake. You're not allowed to eat a bee. And the legs of the bee also, theoretically, you're not allowed to eat. So how come you're allowed to eat honey if there's, you know, a leg of a bee in the honey? You can say it's Batel B'Shishim, whatever, but that's the question. If you can see it, it might be a problem. So Tosfot answers there that there's a din of atzamot, bones, that because they don't have a taste, so you're allowed to eat them, basically. And that's the same with legs of a bee. I don't want to get into that whole discussion, because that's also the Shulchan Aruch doesn't agree with that. But basically, the legs of the bee, when it falls into honey, it doesn't have a taste. Interestingly enough, the Rabbeinu Yonah, who I, by the way, have the zchut to write a bi'ur on Rabbeinu Yonah. The Rabbeinu Yonah is the commentator. The Rabbeinu Yonah was a commentator on the Rif, and in Perek Shishi on Bachot, the 6th Perek of Bachot, he speaks there about the honey, and he says something very surprising, very interesting. He says this, that when legs of bees fall into honey, the honey consumes it. Like in the Lord of the Rings, when what's his face, Frodo needs to put the ring into the fire, into the lava, you know, and like consumes the ring. So the same is with honey. It's got this power in it to fully turn into honey anything that falls into it. So the Mishnah takes this idea of the Rabbeinu Yonah and says the following. It says, look at the power of honey. The power of honey turns anything that it touches into honey itself. It turns anything bad into good. So the Mishnah says this: salt represents stability. Salt, we know, preserves anything. You can put salt stands almost forever. Salt never goes off. Salt represents stability. Salt represents, you know, just staying the same. Honey represents something which is revolutionary. It changes something from being bad to good. It says the Mishnah salt represents tshuva me'ira. It can't fully change something, can't change the essence of something. But honey has that power to change, mamash flip something. There's no other word but like a revolution. So when we dip bread in honey on Rosh Hashana, we're saying, not only do we regret what we did last year, we want to look at what we did last year and change it into good. You know, let's say I did a sin last year, something I regret, something that I'm doing the whole time. I don't really want to, you know, regret it and may Hashem just, you know, not punish me for it. I want to learn from it. I want to, let's say, I've got lots of energies and I use them for the bad things. So let's look at my energies and use them for something good. So that's the idea of dipping bread into honey. Tshuva, לא tshuva me'ira, tshuva me'ahava, shofechet zdonot lezchuyot. But I was thinking, maybe if I could add to that a bit, if that was the case, maybe we should be eating honey the whole day in Rosh Hashana. Tshuva me'ahava. But you see, we don't have so much honey. We just dip the challah. You have your usual meal with a bit of honey. Maybe the idea is that, you know, big changes can't happen so quickly. It's happen slowly, you know, a bit of honey. Maybe the idea is that if we want to change something for next year, we need to choose one or two small things that we're mamash changing. But, you know, take specific things, small things that we're going to change. For example, let's say I don't guard my tongue, I speak Lashon Hara, or I say the wrong things at the wrong places. So to make sure that this year I'm gonna speak less Hashana. 1 hour a day I'm not gonna speak Hashana. That's koach hipuch, that's the koach of honey. Or let's say any other thing. You take small things and you decide this year I'm gonna do this or that. That's the koach of the hipuch. That's Lashnia. Using this idea, I would like to bless us all, not only with a year of sweetness, like we say, sweet New Year, Shana Tova U'Metuka, but a year of looking back at our life for the last year and looking what we can change and what we can, the bad things, how we can really turn the bad things into good. I'll be honest, it's been also for me, and I'm sure for a lot of you, it's been a very tough year with everything that's happening in the world. I just listen to the news on the way home, and it's hard. It's something we're going through a hard time, and we need to think like honey. We need to think, okay, how do we not only put this in the past, put this behind us, but how do we really look for a way to turn this into mamash lahafoch et ze letov. So I wanna wish you all Hashana Tova. I can't wait to see you all in the next coming year, to get to know you. ושיהיה שנה טובה ומתוקה והפוכה. שנה טובה.